All right, everyone. Thank you so much for dropping by Comic Crusaders today. We have a very, very special guest who decided to take time out of their busy schedule to hang out with me. We're going to talk some comic book movies. We're going to chit chat and go over the Suicide Squad movie from James Gunn and, you know, that guy, John Cena, among other people. Anyways, I am joined by the very talented, very classy Rustling Soup, Anthony Missionary Thomas.
Classic.
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm really good. You know, I just finished up the movie the other day, and I gotta sit there and say, is it a reboot first off, or is it part 2 or part 2.5 if you count Birds of Prey? I don't know if people do or not. It's by far the best one of the 3, 2.5, however you look at it. I was really surprised. I was not expecting a lot of it, but I have a lot of respect and enjoyment from James Gunn's movies. Like, the guy just is consistent with putting out fun movies, not necessarily, story true, but at the same point, he puts out movies that you want to rewatch again. So he's got a good caliber in my sense. But really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised because I've been down on movies a little bit lately when it comes to the comic books. Like, I really try. And I know that, a lot of people that do listen to Wrestling Soup and stuff like that have heard me talk before about comics, even going back in the day, talking with John Draper about comics and stuff like that. I kind of have a purist attitude, but it's not an unforgivable purist attitude when it comes to comic books. It's more along the lines of the stories that have been written, these mythos, because that's what it is. It's American mythos. The American mythos that has been put in comic books for years should be where movie storylines take from, and not necessarily always have to alter everything. And sometimes it's something stupid like a costume tweak or whatever else like that. That doesn't bother anybody. That's not me. But when you change what the mythos is, when you change the direction of the storyline or the importance of a storyline by leaving things out, it kind of ruins it a little bit for me. Because, I guess that's the way I look at it. You look at Greek gods, you look at the mythology between Norse gods and Greek gods and everything else like that, Japanese gods, Hindu gods. Like, there's a serious religious, connection there to people, Native American, whatever. Same thing with this. This is American mythos. Comic books have been around since before me and you even existed.
Sure.
And they'll be around, hopefully, knock on wood, way after we're all gone. Hopefully that it continues on with our kids and our grandkids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I just kind of feel like the American mythos should have a little bit more respect. But, sorry for derailing, James Gunn put on a fantastic movie, Suicide Squad. What are your thoughts on it, bud?
Well, I like James Gunn as a director. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel movies, but I loved Guardians, and I didn't think I was going to because I'd read Guardians comics, and they were kind of just okay. Like, right. People forget, like, they weren't exactly top tier stuff. So, but when he did Guardians, I fell in love more with his filmmaking because I remembered him from Slither. Okay. That's his first film that I think I'd ever seen, not counting that. When you look back on it, I realized like a couple months ago, him and Zack Snyder worked together on a film.
Yeah.
He wrote Dawn of the Dead, Gunn did, and Zack directed it. So I guess Gunn's kind of been there,
on and off. Yeah.
On and off throughout stuff. But when I got to this version of the Suicide Squad, I was pretty excited. Like, I knew it would be in good hands. I liked aspects of the first film, but it just wasn't there. And then Birds Prey era, I debate people at work all the time. I just don't care for it.
I'm right there with you on that one. I'm not a big DC guy. So it's not that I don't know the stories of DC, but clearly I follow Marvel a little bit closer. I follow Image pretty close. I follow Dark Horse, But as far as DC goes, I've always been kind of like a fair weather fan with that. Like, there's people that I enjoyed. Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern series. I was big into Flash once upon a time, but not as huge into Batman. Loved Azrael, but not a regular Bruce Wayne guy, which is, I know it's sacrilege right there. But as far as DC goes, when I'm watching something like Suicide Squad, I'm watching it with the common knowledge eyes. I don't have the eyes of somebody that's been following the Suicide Squad from the beginning, that's been following the comic books, kind of like the way you pointed out Guardians.
Yeah, no, and I think that's one of the great things about this film is that it's a mixed story, because obviously I'm going to put the spoiler alert warning right here, right now. Yeah. That way, how dare you? It's been out for 2 weeks, people. Relax. Okay. If but that's a whole other issue I can get into. Starro is originally a Justice League villain. That's how they all united in the comic in the beginning.
Right.
Was Starro. So like stuff like that doesn't bother me. Like, it's like, okay, you're taking from this mythos to make something work that still works with everything big picture wise.
Right.
And I can deal with that. So like going into this film, I just knew like the only reservations I had was the casting of those second tier villains. And then I guess they're all our villains, but like the second tier squad.
Right.
I was like, why are they putting these people in the film? But then it made sense when you watch the opening scene. It made sense in a beautiful way. They
did a really good job of misdirection, because that fooled me, because I didn't read any spoilers beforehand or anything else like that. So I wasn't going into it going, oh, I've already seen these reviews. I was pretty careful to make sure that I didn't see too much of it. But yeah, no, threw me right off. And then of course they had big names in the secondary squad too. So
yes,
you're thinking, how could you kill them off so quickly? It's like, that was good. And I think it made more sense too. Like, it really got you ready for anything could happen in this movie. And I think that was already like, it was like the first way down on the roller coaster. It's like, okay, buckle up. Here you go. Here's round one. And it proceeded to get better from there.
Well, that was one of the problems with the first movie. I think like only 2 people on the squad died. I think it was Slipknot in the beginning, whose head exploded.
Right.
And then El Diablo.
Right.
Whose death was kind of mysterious. Like, wasn't like 100% confirmed he was actually dead. Kind of left that one open.
Fire. So
yeah. But like this one, it was like pop, 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 pop. And I just loved the detachable kid's death. I rolled on the ground. It was just
it was very good. It was good. It was a good premise. And the previews, which here's another thing too, and maybe like trailers and stuff like that, often give away the movie. Their trailers have become almost a way of determining in those 30 seconds to a minute or whatever have you, of whether you want to go see this movie or not. And the trailer really didn't betray the storyline. And I was very impressed by that, because usually it's the other way around where, oh, I just saw the movie in 30 seconds. I'm good. You know what I mean? And this is not the case. They did a good job from the ground up of betraying what the audience thought was going to happen.
Yeah, no, everybody, whoever cut those trailers together did a really good job, because you kind of had an idea of what was going on, but you didn't have a complete idea of what's going on.
Right.
And to your point, trailers are hard to determine. Like, I think back to the stories I heard about when '89 Batman came out. Like, people would pay money to just go sit in a theater to watch a trailer.
Yeah.
They would leave. They would just leave after the Batman trailer was over. I'm just like, that's crazy.
Cinema has completely taken a different turn these days. You know what I mean? Although, you know what? I can't really say that though either, because if you really think about it, aren't Comic-Cons kind of the same thing?
To a point, like San Diego is. San Diego's that big mecca moment, but like the smaller cons are kind of, they're kind of like indie wrestling, where you have a couple legends on the top of the thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not excluding like Wizard World or like C2, what is it, C2E2? And then New York Comic Con and stuff. The bigger ones are different, but what's really weird is you'll see like on DC, especially with like DC films, like they'll take one actor from a movie that's come out, and they will shuffle them around to different smaller cons. And I'm like, they'll take like this time they took Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in Justice League.
Oh, okay.
He's going to all these smaller cons.
Is that by choice, or is that the DC tour?
I think it's got to be a mixture of both at this point. Like,
That's kind of cool, though. I mean, honestly, as a fan, you want to know that the people that you're watching on screen that are playing these characters are just as into the characters as you are. You know what I mean? Isn't it the worst when you find out that an actor just hated his role? And it's like, but you're so iconic. And it's like, man.
Yeah, I know that there was a lot of mixed issues like with Ben Affleck for a while. Because to me, like, Ben Affleck's my Batman now.
Really?
Like, he's just brutal and set. Like, if the reason I say, well, there's lots of reasons, but if you go to the warehouse fight in BVS, that's like the perfect Batman, like taking down thugs.
Right.
Fight that I've ever seen. It feels like an Arkham game almost.
Yeah.
Like it just plays out. But then he left and now he's back because he's in the new Flash movie along with Michael Keaton.
Right.
Kind of, so everything's all over the place. But to get back to Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
The casting for that second team turned out really good.
Yeah.
The only thing I was worried about in the beginning was King Shark. Because I was like, I hope you just don't like make this like a Groot thing. It kind of is, but it's still funny in its own way because there are savage moments with King Shark.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love the little jellyfish scene, the piranha jellyfish.
Oh, yeah, those things were so good.
They were adorable, and then they turn into these little horrible monsters, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. I thought it was just one of those, look, King Shark is simple, and now he's simple with other simple fish. It turned out they wanted to eat him. And I was like, oh, okay.
I actually really loved that scene. That's a beautiful scene.
It was, yeah, him walking into the giant aquarium. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to like the Shed Aquarium or anything like that, but it really reminded me of walking into the Shed Aquarium for people that have been around Chicago.
Oh,
and it just has this humongous room-wide aquarium that you walk into, and you literally feel like you're in the middle of the ocean. And they kind of took that visual, which I don't know if that's where they got the inspiration from, could be, but they took that exact same visual and they applied it at that moment to King Shark, and then all of a sudden, like, everything broke and everything else like that. But it was cool. It was absolutely cool because it was like, okay, here's all the serious shit happening. The building's falling. People are firing outside. They're ramming down the door with a Jeep or whatever, a Hummer with a fucking plate of metal across it.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is having this simple moment where he's enjoying himself, and they're playing fucking C4 all over the place. It was really well timed. That's the one thing I'll say is the cinematography in this movie is intelligent. It's not just pretty to look at. It was fucking intelligent. Because the weirdest thing now is when I start watching movies, the first thing I think of is, man, in this disposable instant gratification world where all of your videos are 5 minutes and under, how in the hell are you going to keep people's perception, or especially the younger audience's perception, for 90 minutes plus? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And they did a good job of turning the movie into chapters. They constantly kept doing that. Operation Harley, 8 minutes later or whatever, or 3 minutes before. Like, they constantly kept putting little text images using CGI in order to kind of give you that cookie cutter, like, not cookie cutter, but that serving size of movies. So if somebody wanted to punch out in the first 10 minutes, they can. They've actually got a fucking chapter note. Now you can punch out. You don't feel like you've lost anything. It's not like you have to go backwards and forwards. I can only imagine what the 4K and everything else when that comes out with all the extras and stuff like that. But yeah, I really had to give it to a lot of the CGI and the animations. It was just really intelligent all the way through, from those visuals, like with King Shark and everything, but also with how they broke everything up too. It was good. I was really thoroughly impressed.
No, absolutely. And to go on the CGI for a moment, I thought the CGI was done really, really well in this film. Like, I say practical effect, but I like the use of like practical effects in film. And I discovered, like, watching that behind the scenes interview, like he tried to go as practical as much as he could. And then, because it definitely shows, like, especially like with stuff with, like, when Polka Dot Man's all like,
oh, that was great.
Oh, yeah, he's all messed up, Stuff like that looked good, but the CGI on King Shark looked really good.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really look at it as a CGI creature most of the time.
Right. He didn't.
You know?
He didn't have that shine where it's like you look back at some of the bad CGIs, not current Hulk, but like you look back at those earlier Hulk movies and they don't hold up at all.
No.
So computery, so cartoony, so digital. It's like, but yeah, King Shark was fantastic. I loved, honestly, some of my favorite was when Polka Dot Man was seeing his mother everywhere.
Oh, those were great. It was so disturbing and dark.
It was absolutely. It worked on so many levels because here he is in the strip club and everybody looks like his mom. I'm like, that is so fucked up on so many different levels. But it was good, and they used it in the story, and they made it a part of the character. Matter of fact, out of all the characters that were in the movie, Polka Dot Man might be one of my favorites. He really was, and I know for a fact that he really wasn't much in DC Comics. Like, I guess he doesn't have like a huge role.
Yeah, he's like a D-list Batman villain. Like,
right.
Like, but no, he turned out really well. I do like it when he saw his mom the first time, and King Shark looks like his mom. It was a disturbing image because when King Shark waves, like,
it was amazing. It really was an amazing. It was a multi-layered character. I mean, the whole fact that he wanted to die, he didn't care. He was a depressed guy. You know, he's beaten up by his mother. He's living with the death of all his siblings and stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, that was when he explained that part. You're like, oh, goddamn, pal.
Right. There's a reason why there's a big fucking collar around your neck, dude. Yeah. So, and then of course, the fact that his mom injected him with a space virus, space HIV or whatever the fuck it was, and he would physically become deformed because of that. So it wasn't just necessarily. He sees his mom everywhere because of the mental, infraction that he had to himself, but he also physically felt it too.
Right.
To the point where they made the joke, obviously, where he's sitting there with blood sports watching him take a piss in the woods, but he's actually just injecting all the polka dots. I'm like, that was pretty fucking cool. So it's like, it's almost become to him, it's not a power. I mean, it became a power, and that's how he used it. And he knows what it was used for.
Mm-hmm.
But in his normal everyday life, he ejected it like he was taking a shit. Like, that's what it was. Like, oh, I'm better now. It's like, it's wild. It was a really in-depth character for such a nothing character as far as the mythos goes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What'd you think of Harley Quinn this time around? We've now seen her in 3 films. To me, this is her best outing.
It is. It was a little less chaotic, which is what they really seemed to push in the last 2. She still had those elements of chaos, but there was also a lot more of a succinct Harley this time. I felt that Margot kind of reeled it back in a little bit. There was a little bit more reasons for the things that she was doing. When she was getting tortured on the rack by the general or the new presidente or whatever they were calling him at the time, she's sitting there, singing about, what is that song? Oh, I forget the song, and I was actually humming it earlier today too. What the hell? But anyways, it's an old song, like, How Dry I Am or whatever. And she's getting zapped with the taser over and over, and he's asking her, he's like, how many other Americanos have come 69. With you? And she's like, 69. And you're sitting there, and she's like, 6. How the hell did you get 69? And I love that, because that was, even though it's a potty joke at the end of the day. I mean, it's about, we know what a 69 is. Right. That's what it is. But it was almost playing off the fact that a person in El Presidente's position wouldn't get something like that. And the fact that she was so defiant at the end, she even faked that she passed out from the pain, which was amazing, and then ends up killing the guy by strangling him with her legs and then snapping his neck. And I'm like, see, this makes a lot more sense to the Harley character, because it's not just, oh, Mr. J, like crazy, wacky Harley Quinn, which gets grating after a while.
Yeah, it does get
She
old.
had a purpose, and it was fun. She was still a little kooky, her moments and stuff like that when she showed up and they're all trying to scale into the building and save her. And she's like, hi, guys. And it's like, there were kooky moments, but it didn't feel like she's being kooky just to be kooky. You know what I mean?
Right. It wasn't too much of like, like how did JR say it? It's, It wasn't just all steak. There was a little sizzle in there.
Yes.
Or it wasn't all sizzle and there's a little steak in there.
Little steak in there, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they did a good job. I was really impressed because I was afraid they were going to do another Birds of Prey. That's what I was afraid of. Honestly, before even going into this, even before seeing the trailer, when I knew the movie was coming out, I'm like, oh, it's going to be the Harley Quinn show. And I was afraid of that because Harley Quinn is a great character. We all know she stemmed from the animated series back in the day, and she's completely grown and taken on a life of her own. But at that same time, it almost gives directors and screenplay writers carte blanche to kind of morph her character into whatever they feel it is. But James Gunn is the one that I think really knew what Harley Quinn is supposed to be. So it's more of a credit to his character. It's a credit to Margot Robbie, for doing such a good job and not being like overly zealous, crazy girl all the time. I think they really finally grounded that character. And if you took this Harley Quinn and gave this a movie like a Birds of Prey 2 from this character, I think it would be phenomenally better than the original.
I do too. I think this movie did showcased Harley way better than what Birds of Prey did. And Birds of Prey had close to 2 hours to do that. Yeah. And I think this film really showcased everything that is Harley
with less time.
Yes. Yes, with way less time.
Right.
What's funny too, it's when I think about Harley Quinn in this film, I also think about Wonder Woman and Justice League in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Much better than in 1984.
Oh, 84 was painful, bro.
that was a hard movie to watch. I tried to convince myself it was okay, and I was like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
It was like this. But it's funny how you have these two movies that have come out this year that have done better at presenting two characters like this,
I think,
than in their solo outings.
Between the two, I think Snyder gets the darkness and the weight of superheroes right. I think he understands the plight of having responsibilities on that level. And I think that's why Snyder gets his love. But Gunn brings out their personalities.
Yes.
Gunn can make superheroes or supervillains with all of these great powers human, which is something that connects with all the audiences. That's why I think Guardians of the Galaxy was so great, because he could connect all those characters with us, the audience. And obviously he did the same thing in Suicide Squad. So I think when you look at those polarizing styles, they both work depending on what type of audience or what the audience is looking for. If the audience is looking for a dark movie, you'll probably want to go with Snyder. You'll probably want to go with somebody who's going to give you that heavy weight of a movie at the end of the day. But if you want to go with a movie that, obviously takes nothing characters, nothing people, and turns them into something lovable. There was I was watching Red Letter Media the other day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I've watched some of their stuff.
They did a review on Suicide Squad as well. But one of the things they were talking about was the NPR move, where I guess there was an NPR show. I forgot what.
Where they got the villain, and like they tried to trademark a villain.
Right.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that review.
And they were trying to talk about this, and they were like, yeah, there's no way in hell Marvel is ever going to part, no matter how many. They had like $10 million or $20 million, some crazy amount of money that they were going to fork down to own an actual Marvel character. And I guess the response was, there's no way Marvel is going to sell to you, because they can take a nothing character like Groot and turn it into a merchandising god.
Yes, he's literally a freaking Chia Pet now.
Right. Right. Exactly. And it's like, yeah, your $10 million for a character, a nothing character, is to anybody else, it's like, yeah, here, take this 1967 nothing character that was used in 2 comic books. But they're not going to do that anymore because of movies. And I love that Mike's response was, they're going to take these characters that didn't exist, or they mean so little to the community, and they can absolutely use them as fodder and turn them into something, down the road with merchandising or expansions, because that's what it is. And I think people are, and I know that the money is still bread and buttered with, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, like that will always make money. But the reality is how many times can you do these same movies with the same guys? And I think that was a real smart insight, because you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, most people didn't follow Guardians. Most people don't know about the Star Jammers or the Kree Wars, and like there was so many different levels to the cosmic stuff, and even the Marvel cosmic stuff. I'll be honest, it was difficult for me to follow. I followed
the Marvel cosmic stuff gets
right.
Yeah,
It gets out there.
Yes.
I mean, even the godly stuff, love Thor and stuff like that. But when you start getting into Ares and Blood Axe and Loki and Odin, and you start going through the Deus and everything else, it starts getting stretched out there.
You pretty much have to be a fan of that character and the history of that character to get everything.
Right.
Right. It's almost like when you watch, like, I remember in college watching like early Family Guy episodes, and I'd see people laughing who I knew had no clue what they were laughing at with the joke.
Right.
Like, it was like, I know you don't know about the swimmer who fell on his head off the diving board. Like, I know you don't know that. Like, you've never had any clue about stuff like that. It's like that with a lot of the movies, though, too. Like, people just go in, they suck up the entertainment and move on. But, you don't appreciate, like, the little things. Like,
right. Oh, totally. I'm actually excited to watch this movie again, because I know I'm going to see stuff in it that I missed the first time.
Well, we did that yesterday. I invited a whole bunch of people over from work. We did a big cookout and stuff in the backyard and stuff. A way for us to hang out, because we've been working remote since everything started.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they were pretty much keeping us at home. Like, it was funny. I told you last time we chatted, like, it was weird listening to like the stuff with the pandemic from your guys' perspective.
Yeah.
Because literally nothing changed for me except me working from home. We rarely didn't go out except to eat.
Right.
And an occasional event, but like we're mostly homebodies.
Right.
But then you took out the work element and working from home all the time. I experienced the pandemic way differently than BT and you guys did.
Yeah.
Like, nothing really changed for me.
Well, my whole change was I literally moved out of home to a whole new state and had nothing around me. So it was like, not only am I stuck indoors, it's like there's nothing comfortable for me here, and I'm forced to be here for at least an inordinate amount of time until I can move back. And I moved back a couple months early, even, which people might not even realize than a year, because I moved in technically on February 23rd. PA got shut down in March 1st. So I was like, enjoy your 7 days of nothing. It's so, I mean, I got to do a couple of things out there, but the reality is like all the experiences, obviously all the wrestling and stuff, when you move into a new area, all the job prospects that I had, all just dried up. Yeah, immediately. And it wasn't even dried up. It was, they were forced to shut down. So even if they wanted to, it was like, everybody got to go fuck themselves.
Well, I remember you telling that story, that lady who almost like broke down and started crying, giving you the bad news that she couldn't like see you for an interview after you got hired. Yeah,
no, she was absolutely sad about that. But I mean, I don't think she was sad for Anthony Thomas as she was more sad about what the fuck is going on with our world.
Yeah.
And we all were like that, dude. There was multiple times, I know that myself and I know you, Joe, we're kind of on the verge of like, this is too much. It was surreal. And I mean, I don't mean to push it any further to the conversation, but we got that looming around the corner again. And it's like,
I know. But those daily shows were really those shows were really like, because I'd listen to them while I was at work, or if I couldn't listen to it completely at work, I'd download it, and then while I was working on stuff for toy reviews and stuff, it would be my background music, like while I do stuff. So like,
well, if we have another one, we can expect another 100. Me and Joey will be there for another 100.
Oh God, let's hope not.
I know.
I mean, I would love the entertainment, but let's not.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Anyways, so we've covered Harley, we've covered Polka Dot Man.
Sure.
What did you think of the guy that you couldn't really see in this movie the whole time, John Cena?
Wow. Surprisingly, one of his best acting roles. He was still John Cena. Like, I mean, obviously, as wrestling fans, we've seen John Cena for years.
Right.
And there was definitely some Cena-isms that happened throughout the movie where I was like, okay, is this John Cena or is this Peacemaker? And it's like, Peacekeeper. Sorry, I don't know. I said Peacemaker. I'm thinking of guns now all of a sudden. But there were absolutely some moments with Cena where he was sympathetic as a villain. At the very end, and it was really interesting how they painted him too. Because once again, I don't know his background from DC. I don't know if he's a major player or not.
He actually started out as a Charlatan Comics character.
Okay.
And then he was acquired by DC in a purchase.
Oh.
And he's just kind of appeared on and off. He's not, once again, to go back to what we previously just discussed, not in the forefront of stuff all the time.
Right. Okay.
As one of those characters that will appear for a couple issues in an arc, and then he'll be gone. You won't see him for years.
Right. Wow. Okay. The character was a sympathetic villain because his whole point was he wanted to keep America safe.
By any means necessary.
Right. and it's like, for some of the superheroes, you can see where that line gets crossed. So to everybody watching in the audience, he's the villain. But then if you think about it, as far as national security goes, he was the damn hero.
Right.
He's the fallen hero. So it's really, I love arcs like that. I love character arcs like that, where one person, it almost gets political without having to go Democrat, Republican.
Right.
But it is political because here it's a military operative or a military operation doing the uncool thing, doing the gross thing in order to protect America's interests, which includes the same people that look at him as a villain. I love dichotomies like that. It's a really deep storyline, and they told it in a couple of sentences, one or two scenes.
Yeah, I mean, they put it all together.
Yeah, all the time up there, it's just him in Bloodsport, pissing contests back and forth. And he seemed to be a really enjoyable character. He's patting people on the back. He's ordering rounds of drinks. Like, they did a good job of making you believe that he's one of the boys. I knew that he was the villain only because of, obviously, social media and stuff like that beforehand. But I didn't suspect it when I was watching the movie. And I don't think that anybody watching the movie with virgin eyes or fresh eyes would have made that expectation earlier. Now, I don't know if in the DC Comics he plays that same type of role. I don't know what his depth is.
He's got like a Punisher, like vigilante vibe to him.
Like U.S. Agent almost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's a good way. And the weird thing is, back in the day, it's been a while since I've read anything with Peacemaker in it, but that helmet used to be able to store all the souls of those who had been through, who have had cries of like injustice done to them and stuff.
Really? So
there's a whole
supernatural element.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. See, because U.S. Agent, so not the Disney Plus version. I'm a huge U.S. Agent fan. Like as much, if not more so, than even Captain America. John Walker is probably one of my favorite characters ever because he literally is just like Peacekeeper in the sense of, he burned his friends alive in order to protect America's interests. Live on television too. Like he had for a long time until he ran into the Scarecrow, which is a weird arc story on the 50th anniversary or 75th anniversary of Captain America. But all up until that time, he had no problem killing anybody. Everything was about doing the job for the Superhuman Commission, doing the job for the president, stuff like that. Like he was part of the West Coast Avengers, and Tony Stark couldn't control him. Iron Man couldn't control him. Scarlet Witch, none of those people could control him because he was outside of their jurisdiction, but they were forced to have him with the Avengers because it was the government's plan. It's like, no, you have to have our operative there. And so he was a constant dick to everyone, and it's what's like when I was watching this in DC, it's like, oh, I'm seeing shades there, and that's really fucking cool. So yeah, no, John Cena did a fantastic job. Obviously, they've, spoilers again, obviously, if you're watching to the very end of the movie, they definitely hint that he's okay and he's going to be coming back at some point.
Well, for that HBO series.
Right.
That's why his death was like kind of anticlimactic to me. I was like, but we still have that HBO series.
Right.
Like when I was like, this guy's not dead. But it still worked in the context of the story if you're just watching the story by itself. So, and no hate on there. I do love it when they go to meet up with the freedom fighters.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. Because you're sitting there watching, and you're like, all right, they're getting the bad guys, and it's like you're killing all the good guys, dude.
I think my favorite is like when he walks by with that axe and just like,
oh yeah, the pop, 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 and then just leaves it in there. Yeah, no, definitely.
No,
really well choreographed scene. It was so fluid with both of them too, because it was a pissing contest, but they did it in such a way that it felt like it was actual, because they were walking forward the whole time. It's like he's shooting backwards while walking forwards. It was really well done. Yeah.
Which is funny too, because and I guess we'll go to Bloodsport now, because there's that scene when after Bloodsport joins the squad.
Yeah.
It's like, is this a joke, Waller? Like, he does everything I do. But you see why Waller had him with them for the mission. Peacemaker was Waller's ace in the hole.
Right. She was her insurgent.
Yes.
He was her insurgent. Yeah, absolutely. Bloodsport was pretty good. I mean, I liked aspects of the character, and I didn't like aspects of the character. I didn't like this weird phobia
of rat.
Well, the story behind it. Like, okay, your dad locked you in a crate with hungry rats to punish you. Okay, I get that. You're also a hardened war vet and an assassin. And you're telling me the worst thing that ever happened to you was being locked in a crate as a kid? Like, a phobia in the sense of, okay, I don't want to deal with rats, that would have been fine. But he was almost gripped. Like, it was the mouse and the elephant theory. You know what I mean? It's like, I just didn't like it. I understand it. And it goes back to the Batman stuff, too. There's a lot of fear being placed in a lot of DC characters that makes them who they are.
Right.
I just didn't think that the rat thing was a big enough motivational tool for Bloodsport. I thought that was a little weak.
I kind of agree. It's sort of like Indiana Jones being afraid of snakes. The dude's going to encounter snakes all the time on archaeological digs, and bugs and spiders and rodents, and it's just not a valid. I guess it's a valid fear, but it shouldn't be something that freezes them.
Right. Yeah, it shouldn't be decapitating as far as a fear goes, And I know that was just for Ratcatcher too, or Chloe, or whatever you want to call her. I know that was just in order to have their own little story arc between them, the father and the daughter thing again, which obviously, his whole motivation to save his daughter from Waller killing her. Like, I didn't get that either too, because when the story presented itself and he's in the screaming match with his daughter about
I love that scene, by the way.
It was fun. It was totally fun. But I didn't understand how they took that and it went to, well, if you don't do what we tell you, we're going to kill your daughter.
Because Waller could pull the strings to put her in there.
Right. I guess, but she's not a superhuman. She's not a supervillain.
Waller?
No, the daughter.
Oh, no, she was just going to put him in General Pop.
Oh, I thought she was going to put her in the super.
No, she was going to put her in General Pop of that prison.
Okay.
Because the section with all the super villains is a different section of that prison.
Okay, then that makes more sense, because when I was watching it, I'm like, why would you do that? Would be instant death, because obviously people with powers versus somebody without powers, which one's winning? That's
right.
No brainer. And then the fact that she was really hammering that home over and over and over again, it did kind of turn her into a villain. And I don't know. I didn't get that feeling from the first movie with her. And I didn't get that feeling from even watching the animated movies, the Suicide Squad too.
Oh, with Waller's a total dick, though.
Yeah,
that scene in the first movie where she caps all those people, working on the computer. I love that scene in she's just like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah,
I was like, that's Waller. That's brutal, Waller.
Yeah, that's I just maybe it's just difficult for me to imagine that a person that could do all of that and put somebody's kid, on death row, basically, is allowed such carte blanche over a justice-keeping service. I don't know. I mean, like maybe I need to discover more about the Waller character. Maybe I need to read more into her. I don't know if she even has her own book. I wouldn't be surprised if she did.
No, but she often, besides Suicide Squad, she's got her feuds with both Batman and
Right.
Superman.
Yeah, I've seen her with Batman. I've seen some issues with her and Batman and stuff like that. It's interesting to me that somebody like a Batman wouldn't have taken her down already because she works too far over the line. You know what I mean? Like, I understand the line. We talk about the line of vigilantism. I mean, that's what half of these characters kind of portrays as vigilante line, like what's good, what's evil. There's like even Harley, you know, which I know we're going back to Harley for a second, but you know, the moment when she's getting married and she's the princess and she's in love, they have the bird moment and like everything was perfect for her. And then she shoots the dude in the heart and she's like, I just can't deal with you killing kids. And I was like, there you go. That's the perfect example of vigilante justice. Like everything else she could have dealt with, torturing people, smuggling drugs to different countries, nothing. Killing kids, that was Harley's line. And that's the example of that vigilante justice. Now, Waller feels like somebody that goes over that line constantly. So it's amazing to me that somebody in a force where, you know, you press the rules in order to do good would be allowed to do so much evil in order to do that.
Well, she is protected too.
Okay.
She's high ranking.
Yeah.
Within the dark government. I guess it's the best way to phrase it.
I like that. Dark government. Yes.
You know, there's your face government and then there's your dark government.
The dark government.
You know?
Yes.
Plus, you know, Batman's got all of Gotham City to take care of. That's
true.
Who would ever live in that fucking city? I have no idea. Why would you? But no, no, Bloodsport was good. He was a lot of fun. And then
good lines.
Yes.
Some really good lines. Like they wrote the character very well. There was definitely some moving lines that he had, you know, when he was describing, you know, for Chloe, how, you know, when Chloe went into her deep story, Ratcatcher 2 went into her deep story and stuff like that. Like there are definitely some moments where you're like, this is a good guy who just wants to get the fuck out. You know?
Yeah. And you know, once again, another like C-D level guy. Like he fought Superman a couple times and just he was around in the 90s for a moment and then he was gone again.
He shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet. That's what it was.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was like, when they said that, I was like, I want to see this scene now.
Right.
Like, I just want to see the scene.
They should have. They should have had a little flashback with that. Something.
I agree. And then Ratcatcher 2.
Yes. Sympathetic character. Powers were never really explained.
It's all in that wand.
Okay, now, does the wand do the Pied Piper bit where it calls rats, or does she materialize rats?
Because no, it calls rats. It's supposed to call rats.
So that island had so many rats that it took down Starro.
Think about it, though. Think about the size of a rat. Think about what you don't see.
Right, true.
You know, like, I remember when I went to Toy Fair for New York City.
Yeah.
And we went walking to a bodega for like this really good like sandwich that I had to have. I was like, I will walk into Harlem to go get the sandwich. Like, I don't care.
Right.
I saw tons of rats just walking down the street.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Chicago's the same way, too. There's definitely parts of Chicago. You walk down an alley, you're going to see more than a few little fur babies running around everywhere. So, no, I get that. I do. But it just seemed like it was such a massive amount that it broke the reality of, is she just accumulating rats in the local vicinity? Or is she materializing them? Because I thought that it might have been like a Portal-esque thing where it's unseen. It's not like it's a little, you know, like how we normally see portals. It's the little blue energy field or whatever. No, I just thought they just came out of the shadows or something, just popped out.
You may be right, actually. But I mean, the way I've always understood his device was that it was like a Pied Piper effect. He could call rats anywhere and they'd be there. But your way makes a lot of sense too, actually. That's just my suspension of disbelief. Like just accepting it.
They did a really good storyline, though. They really described her really well. They brought in the fact that she isn't really a supervillain. You know, she loved her dad loved her. They did things that were against the law, but that's what they did to survive. They even went to the point of explaining why rats at the end of the movie, which was a fantastic explanation. The lowest of the low. If you can find, value from the lowest of the low, then that means we have hope. It was like really, really powerful stuff, like to the point that I don't know if they would, but DC might have built themselves another character that could probably stand on its own with her.
Right. They could do a series or even a movie with.
Right. I thought that's how strong that character was. And obviously you can do so much with it. Oh, the visualizations, once again, going back to CGI and everything else like that, the visualizations of the rats was fantastic. I loved the scene with her and her dad freezing. And
then they came over her.
Oh, that was awesome as hell.
It was sad and like touching at the same time, and creepy
at the same
and
time,
disgusting.
She's kind of a badass because she does have all these powers. It's just making rats pop up everywhere. Sebastian the Rat was adorable too. That was their group. It's a rat that's waving, that's lovable, and seems to not need her powers in order to follow her. Like, she doesn't have to use the wand. Like, the rat is always with her. It's more of a companion than it is a follower or a pet, which I really enjoy too. So it even gave Sebastian a little bit of a character, literally a rat, a nothing rat, also had a character arc from trying to be friendly with everybody and trying to be friendly with Bloodsport. And at the end, obviously, we see Bloodsport give him a little nudge on the ear and stuff like that, which was nice too, to show everybody that his fear of rats might have, exceptions for rats that he likes, I guess, But,
right.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that character as well too.
And then King Shark.
King Shark was great. Simple. Sylvester Stallone, that one's clearly a thumb to the nose. That's James Gunn doing what James Gunn does, taking big name people and putting them in roles where they don't do much or say much.
Right.
I mean, you think of Vin Diesel and Groot, and you look at King Shark and Sly, and you're like, that's kind of a similar character. Absolutely fun, hilarious, gruesome. At the same time, just eating people.
That guy.
With the lightning, and the lightning's in the background. They have that, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's awesome. Like, James Gunn knows his characters, even if the characters don't have anything in the, not too much meat on that bone. He knows how to really bring out these characters that don't have much definition to them. So even a character as simple as King Shark, and even a voice actor, Sylvester Stallone, was able to work so well, because I'm not hearing Sylvester Stallone throughout the entire movie. I knew it was him. You saw his name in the credits.
But I'm hearing King Shark. I'm hearing this interpretation of King Shark.
Right, exactly. Same thing with Groot. Nobody's listening to Groot and going, oh, Fast and the Furious. Nobody's doing that. You're hearing Groot. Like, it's really well done. And that's all direction right there. The storyline itself, funny lines, simple lines. They didn't have to go crazy with it. Little moments like him reading the book upside down, funny. Be smart, like very much a Grimlock feel to him a little bit, which I didn't mind at all. I love Grimlock from Transformers for the old school animation cartoon fans from the 85 Transformers and stuff like that. But simple, rock bash, like we were talking about earlier with the piranha jellyfish or whatever
right.
all those were, just great scenes that he was a part of. The one little caveat that I had was Waller kept explaining earlier that he's the most important member of your team. He's the strongest member of your team. And there was a couple moments for that. I never really saw the moment where he was stronger than the rest of the team. Like, I guess you could get to the point where he fell out of the building and he was taking the bullets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was almost not necessary. They didn't need that strength. That strength for him was for him to stay alive.
Because I think on paper, he probably was that. Like, I remember the old Marvel trading cards from the 90s. They'd have the stats on the back. If you looked at the back of the stats of King Shark, they were probably really high for strength and toughness and durability. But when it actually played out in a real mission,
not so much.
He was kind of average.
He kind of felt like the red herring, because I think it was like the entire movie. I'm like, okay, Where's the moment? Give me the moment. And even at the very end, he did a fantastic job. Nom, 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 nom. And that was great. And he just goes in there and starts eating the motherfucker, eating sorrow. And it was great. But I was still waiting for that moment where it's like, nobody else can do this but you, King Shark. You know, and it's like, we never had that. So,
yeah.
No,
I think he fell flat in that aspect, but he was still fun to watch on screen. Like, I like it when he chomps down on that guy's head and you see the eyes moving still.
That was great. Yeah, and they kept that scene going for like 2 or 3 different shots too. He's just still walking around with the head in his mouth, like chewing gum. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah, the actual shots. There were some amazing shots, not just when we talk about the CGI and the effects and stuff like that, but even when they did the shot of, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? Peacemaker and the oh God,
Bloodsport, or not Bloodsport.
Not Bloodsport. The
Flag.
other one, yeah, Flag. Right. So when they had that fight, when they were fighting over the hard disk, they shot the whole thing in the reflection of Peacekeeper's helmet.
Right.
And they kept that. Dude, I loved that. That was so fucking cool. It was so surreal. So it wasn't like, oh, we have to watch this close-ended fight. We're watching it in the reflection of his helmet. And it was almost like a double storyline in that. It's like they were telling a different storyline in that, because it's like this entire time he's had the helmet on. He's been your hero. He's been one of the group of the Suicide Squad. And now that the helmet's off, he's fighting for the hard drive. And now he's who he really is. It was, you know what I mean? That's what I was like, now he's taking the mask off. Now here's the real evils, you know? And it's like, I love, and they were fighting in there too. And it was really well done. There was a few shots like that where they did it in a different way, to where it was like just a unique telling, like a way that you wouldn't normally see in a movie. So yeah, no, just another aspect of the movie that was fun to watch.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the things I really like with for just about any DC film as of late. They all have their unique visual style.
Yeah.
Better or worse story. Well, I'm not talking story here, folks. I'm just talking visualization wise. They all feel like their own. They're unique. Because that's one of the things that bothers me with like some of the Marvel films. They all kind of look like, I often call them high budgeted TV shows. Yeah. Like but that's good in a way too, because they're all connected.
That's what they do. They use those color schemes, because Marvel is a big thing with like really bright, vibrant colors, but they use that in order to keep people locked into the storyline, even though they're years apart.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's all marketing, dude. It's all people that are getting paid way more than me and you.
Lucky bastards. Yeah. But I mean, I like if you look like a film like The Joker, it has its own style from that director and cinematographer. You look at the Suicide Squad, own direction. Like the Suicide Squad feels different in terms of the way it's shot than
it feels different than the first one.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, like even the music. Another thing about the movie itself. The music in the first one was really in your face. Like it was, oh, absolutely. Like every scene is like, oh, boom, listen to this song by whoever, you know? In this one, they did a really good job of having just the same amount of music, because I think there's a lot of songs in this movie.
Yes.
But it was a lot of background noise. It was playing on the radio in the car. It was the music in the club. It was what the radio was playing in the armored van. You know, it wasn't directly in your face. Now, there were times where the music would transition to being in your face in order to give you that punch moment.
Yeah, like in the opening, like both openings, like when the squad lands, they went with that song, and then with Johnny Cash, in the beginning.
But they did a real good job of making the music not at the forefront of the storyline, which I really appreciate the creativity of the soundtrack. So I'd like to listen to the whole soundtrack and like listen to it for what it is, but overall the way it was presented in the movie was perfect, because it wasn't detracting you from the storyline at hand. It was emphasizing the moments that you're watching, as opposed to the first one that it really derailed some of the movie. to me.
Well, that's the problem with those early DCEU films is that the studios got, after the performance of BVS, they all went, what are we going to do? We got to fix everything.
Right.
So, all those films suffered in the beginning because, like, the Ayer cut, if you look at that first trailer, like you said in his recent post, it is a totally different feel than than what they produced on film. So, but enough about that first movie. This movie, I think, really stood on its own. It had an engaging story. It was fun to watch. It was fun to rewatch. I've watched it several times. It was fun to watch with a group of people, and it's still fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is definitely one of those few movies, especially with all the comic book movies usually get a second watch from me. Usually, there's not too many that I'll just watch once and go pump and dump, But this one will be one I watch with the kiddos multiple times. I know I will. Even though they're 17 right now or whatever, they're still going to be interested in watching this for a while. This is a good story that you can watch by itself. Even if you didn't watch the first Suicide Squad, that's another thing too, is that this was so well structured. I didn't feel like I lost anything by not watching Birds of Prey. I didn't feel like I lost anything for not watching Suicide Squad.
No, even though I did. Into a new story.
Right.
And it felt fresh and new, and that was one of the positives. I will say this. I don't know if you've ever watched Doom Patrol.
I didn't watch Doom Patrol, but I did used to read the comic books back in the day.
You should watch Doom Patrol because this I asked a coworker who I had watched Doom Patrol. I turned to him when I was rewatching it, and I was like, you could replace a lot of these characters with characters from Doom Patrol, and it would work just about the same. Like, I honestly, Mish, I'd give Doom Patrol.
Oh yeah, I'll totally watch it. Yeah, that's one. I've heard people mention it, but nobody said good or bad about it.
I love Doom Patrol because it's so off the wall and different. Like kind of how this movie is too. It's kind of not your normal comic book formula,
right?
Punched in. Doom Patrol has that aspect of where it just goes in places you didn't think it would go. Like season 2, they bring in, like, small spoiler, I'm not spoiling, they bring in sex ghosts.
Okay.
That are like fucking while they're trying to, like, they're doing shit like that. Like,
that's good. That's good. That's exactly what you want. You want them to push the boundaries. You want to push the limits without changing the mythos, without changing the actual comic books. There's nothing wrong with creating new mythos in the TV shows and the movies. I think that's the positive of taking these comic books and putting them into any kind of cinema or television, is that you can take the mythos that already exists and create new shit. Create brand new stuff with everything else. But it seems like, unfortunately, a lot of these directors or these screenplay writers or whoever is doing the actual transition from comic book to screen changes where everything came from, as opposed to thinking, this is where this came from, let's go somewhere new with it. And I think that's where it breaks down. So stuff like Suicide Squad, why it's so well taken is it's still taking the premise of what the Suicide Squad is supposed to be.
It has the heart of it.
Going to different places with it, right? And then they're not changing it. Harley Quinn isn't all of a sudden a plumber. It's like they're not changing the aspects of it to try and meet with Middle America.
I'm sure some plumber has some sex fantasy of Harley Quinn.
You're probably right. Yes,
Mr. J, I'll fix your toilet. I'll clean your pipes.
Exactly. But you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of people playing carte blanche with where these stories come from, and it's like, I think the original writing, and this is just my opinion, along with the millions of other people that have bought and read comic books in their lifetime, the original stories were good enough to keep us. The original writing was good enough to keep us. That's the writing that should stay the same. Taking those aspects, and this is why it's like I kind of consider myself a purist, but I don't. And this is why I try to explain to people too, because I get a bit of flack for it sometimes. Like, how could you not enjoy such and such, Mish? How could you not enjoy it? It was great. It betrays a lot of the storylines that it came from. the writing was good enough to capture us as kids or adults. Even the writing was good enough to have us reread these issues. Why is it not good enough to take those exact same stories, put them on screen, and then go somewhere new with it, as opposed to changing what it was, putting it up on screen, slapping a logo on it, and then just expecting everybody to go along with it because that's what's written for the screen? Because when it comes to normal adaptions of books, if you tried to do that with Harry Potter, people would lose their goddamn minds. Look at what happened to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, fantastic. People... Everybody loved it. But those last 2 seasons, I dare you to find somebody that enjoyed those last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I wasn't a Game of Thrones fan, but my wife was, and
yeah. But that's the perfect example of why you stick to the actual story, why you stick to the actual written content. Now, D&D went on to change aspects of the storyline for Game of Thrones that made Game of Thrones better. But when they didn't have the strings, when they no longer had the training wheels of George R.R. Martin, everything fucking fell apart, and quick. Even though they even took an extra year to film the last season was only half a season. Like, it was bad. And it's like, when I sit there and I amplify those kind of ideas and I look at comics in the same way that people look at other books, like a Harry Potter series or a Lord of the Rings series or Game of Thrones and stuff like that, and I apply the same kind of respect to comic books that I do those other book series, it's no different to me than taking, that story or taking a Harry Potter and then just making him a sci-fi wizard in the middle of Tron. It would be sacrilegious to do so.
I just would like to see the opening night of
it. Just people's heads exploding everywhere. Yeah, man.
Like Austin Powers sex bots,
Yes.
No, that would be great. I will say that the most important, not important, but one of the things that DC gets right is, especially on their animated front, is they stick closer to those stories. I don't know why film is so scary for them to follow that format, but their animated
Isn't that
stuff,
weird?
It is. I don't understand it in the slightest.
Because you would think that with the animations, it would be a lot more tempting to go fucking crazy, because you can do anything in an animation, anything you fucking want. You want Spider-Man to fight a giant pussy in the sky? You can do it. You can absolutely do it. But then you have the animations keeping honest with the comic book storylines, even on both sides to a point. But yeah, on both sides, they keep closer to the actual storylines than the movies that are restricted by, gravity, restricted in so many ways. And the movies and the TV shows are the ones that go crazy and out there, and the animations are the ones that, no, let's keep it down, guys, keep it down.
I honestly, it has to be a writer ego / director ego, actor ego, and that's the only thing I think. Voiceover people are like, I don't have to do anything. I just have to talk into a microphone.
Right. I'm wearing my Whataburger shirt and I'm wearing some skivvies talking into a microphone for 2 hours.
Nobody knows who I am once I leave this building.
Right.
Best job in the world.
It's got to. You know what? I think you're dead on. I think it is a lot of egos. I think, especially with Marvel, I don't know if it's really the same way with DC, because it doesn't feel like that to me. But once again, I'm not so deep into the DC verse that I can pull apart these directors and screenplay writers and everything else like that. But with Marvel, yeah, it does feel like I need to put my stamp on everything so people will remember who I am. And it's like, at what point does the director or the writer become bigger than the story that they're trying to tell?
Well, they flat out admit it. They don't need to follow canon anymore.
Yeah. That's what
they're like. Kevin Feige, I think, said it. It was like, well, we have the characters. Yeah. We can go in any direction we want with them now.
And they did, because they actually made the MCU verse its own. It's not, what is it, Earth 691111111,
something like that.
Right.
Their multiverse is a lot harder to follow than DC's.
Which is crazy.
DC, well, DC's there with their 52, and then you have the dark multiverse too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole other
But
subsection.
it's not even the first one. They did it before with 0 Hour.
Yes.
Back in the day where they just murdered off everybody and then
Mhm.
Green Lantern brought them all back into existence. And Marvel's done it a few times too. Some with answers, some without. So, yeah.
DC's same boat. Let's relaunch this again. Let's give it a fresh coat of paint. Hey, guys, there's some blue sticking out of the white.
Right.
Oh, that's okay. Throw another slap of white paint on there. That'll be good.
Yeah.
So, what's your final score on the film?
Wow.
Are you going to go with the Meltzer style? 7 stars in Tokyo Dome?
Oh, no. Well, I would go film. Film is usually 4 stars, right?
Yeah. Is it 4 or 5?
Is it 5?
4-star. Yeah, we'll do 4.
4 stars a restaurant.
That's what I remember.
4 stars restaurant, 5 stars movies. You're right.
5 stars. Okay.
You're right. Okay. Sorry. I'm thinking food now all of a sudden. I don't know.
I was thinking TV Guide. I was thinking, they would have I'd see what was playing in the week, stuff people today will never know. You'd wait for that TV Guide to show up and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to sit here and watch this time. It's got 2.5 stars. What is this?
I would definitely go with 4.5 stars. Maybe even 4 3/4. I thoroughly enjoyed this film a lot. I know, and this is only by first watching, I don't expect the movie to get any less on a second watching or a third watching. I think if anything, it'll improve. This might be one of the closest to perfect movies that has ever come out for comic books. I don't know if I would have ever given any of the comic book movies 5 stars. And I know that that's saying something. That's like, oh, you'd have too high standards.
It's your opinion. Who cares? That's what you feel like. If they don't like it, they can go make their own opinion.
Right. But I do. I really, really thoroughly enjoy this. And I think what makes my feeling on the score even being higher was I had almost no expectations going into this film. I didn't. I really felt like when I was going into this, I was going to be like, here we go. All right. 2 hours of my life wasted. And it's not because I was expecting bad acting from John Cena or James Gunn doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. It's not that at all. It's that I've been really disappointed in a lot of comic book movies lately. And I mean, I really loved Legion, and nobody talks about fucking Legion. Legion is dead. Disney ain't going to do shit with it. It's just gone. They buried it. And it's like, wow, you guys had this amazing storyline, and it was artistic, and it was deep, and it was, multifaceted, all over the place, dealing with dementia. And then you had the ultimate reference to Professor Xavier eventually coming in as Legion's dad. And it's like, oh, let's just flush all this down the toilet. It doesn't matter how
we're done with this.
They did it with Hell Shock too.
Oh, yes.
On Hulu. Fantastic series. 1 season, up and done. I mean, the guy's mother is a possessed demon, and him and his sister are hunting down other demons at the same, deep fucking great storyline. 1 and done. Get the fuck out. And nobody talks about it. When people talk about Marvel, they'll be like, Hell Shock? What the fuck is Hell Shock?
That's some independent.
Right. It's just some nobody, So they've come out. I mean, as far as Marvel goes, DC's had some rough TV shows. That Batwoman
thing. Yeah, I don't know. That thing trends every weekend that it's on, and I don't know why. I don't know how.
I don't know. 1 episode, and I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?"
I am woman, hear me roar.
Yeah. But the bad thing with that too is, look, I understand political agendas in comic books. In actual comic books, there was a lot of political agendas.
Oh yeah, no, some stuff's not meant for everybody.
Right.
That show I knew, I was like, this isn't meant for me.
Right.
I don't need to watch this show. I'm okay.
But I think there's better representations.
Yes.
Why did they go with another reboot, like an actual reboot of Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot? I think you want to have that I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. That would have been the perfect fucking person for DC. Not creating new people, but yeah.
Women tend they're wishy-washy with Gal.
Really?
Very wishy-washy. They not in the way they were with with Brie Larson. It's weird. I don't understand it. They all throw in for Brie, but Gal, they're
wow, really? Okay.
At least that's the perception I've seen.
Oh no, I believe you. I'll take your word for it. I just look at when I'm thinking of DC, and you're thinking of let's have a powerful female that has a regular TV series, which, let's be honest, Wonder Woman was a TV series back in the day. People forget that. It would have been a great way to reboot a TV series with a new actress, with a newer message, and still have that iconic Amazonian, strong, powerful female first. I don't want to say feminist because feminist implies something else, but definitely a powerful female, representative that people would have immediately sunk their teeth into, as opposed to just Batgirl.
I know. Well, a lot of those CW shows started off great, and then they just fell by the wayside real fast. Like Flash was really good in the beginning, and then some shows I think also suffer from like writer fatigue, telling the same story different ways. Like some shows are not meant to go 7 seasons. Some shows should wrap up after like 5.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But I mean, you would think that they would have those ideas beforehand. I guess
you would think.
But maybe you don't want to write yourself out, though, either. Because what happens if you get 5 seasons in and you've told this amazing storyline, it's time to finish, and people are Game of Thronesing everywhere, just throwing millions of dollars at the TV screen? Like, what do you do then,
I think that's what happens with a lot of shows. As long as ratings stay a certain way. I'm not in that industry, folks.
Right. I'm not.
This is all speculation, But like
educated speculation, because me and you have both watched tons of comic book based movies and TV shows, so you're kind of judging what the audience is and obviously what networks do with these shows. At the same time, you're wondering what these parent companies think when they create these shows too. So
it's all a weird way it works, but they have good shows. Both, and Marvel has some good shows too, still.
What were your thoughts on it? What was your grading? You didn't tell me yours.
Oh, my grading? I'm going to actually probably give it about the same score you did. I would recommend this to anyone.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like just for comic book fans. This is a film that translates to anybody can pick up and watch it. Like, he uses all the tools of his trade to create a fun story. He uses the trauma tools very well.
Yes.
He uses the Marvel tools.
I liked the little trauma shout out at the end too. I don't know if you were watching the credits, but at the very end of the credits, there was a trauma shout out, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. Good for you, bud. Now,
I love trauma.
But do you think the full frontal male and female nudity is going to cause a problem to anybody?
No, because HBO is different. Like, HBO is weird. Okay, perfect example. This Peacemaker figure that I have.
That's awesome. Okay.
All right. He did not come with a gun.
Right.
I had to add a gun. He came with a sword and axe. DC has a mandate with their action figures that they can no longer come with weapons.
Really?
But they'll make a rated R film like the Suicide Squad.
Right.
Or allow a guy's head to be cut open with a pizza cutter and then cut to a Domino's commercial right afterwards. I don't understand the logic of Warner. They're all under the same umbrella, and yet they all have these different guidelines that make zero sense.
Because this would be something that you would know better than I would, and I guess this goes back to the movie too. The movie was violent, and it made sense in its violence. I didn't feel like it was gratuitous amounts of violence.
No,
it was to splatter on the screen. Now, when you're bringing up stuff like this transition where you can't have guns on action figures and stuff, is the Suicide Squad, like, currently, are the comic books gratuitously violent? Are they as bloody as the movie was? Or is the comic books a little withdrawn and they did a little bit more with the movie?
I haven't touched a Suicide Squad book in a number of years.
Okay.
So I am not the person to ask for that. If I had Johnny from England over here, he's our DC,
nice.
The Shazam wizard. Like, he has it covered.
Right.
But the books that I read recently, like, they've all had blood and guts.
Yeah.
And, AOL, Warner, and now AT&T is weird because the Warner, perfect example, real quick to segue.
Sure.
Warner Brothers never wanted to release the Snyder Cut. They wanted it dead and buried. But AT&T was like, well, put it on HBO Max. We'll get new subscribers.
Right.
2 different thought processes. I don't understand it. Like, Why not use something to make money with? Like,
But at that point, I'm wondering if it's just a guy in a suit, just sitting there making these decisions, and it's like uh, you have to think that they're making these decisions based on money, but
you would
then
think, but you hear those horror stories that like Cornette and like Jim Ross and Bischoff would tell of like corporate executives coming from Turner trying
right,
to mandate, you know, in the early 90s, you couldn't say foreign object. You had to say international object
yes,
because it wasn't inclusive and
right,
whatnot. And then there's that story of Bischoff where he has a whole bunch of corporate people from Standards and Practices come in. It was like, what night of the week is Monday Nitro on TBS
yeah,
or on TNT? And they're like, I don't
right,
know.
exactly.
Monday Nitro. The name tells you what night of the week. I don't know. Turner's always been messed up.
Yeah,
They,
yeah. I mean, it's that's what it sounds like. It suffers from though. It sounds like it suffers from a lot of business suits. Without segueing it back to wrestling, but it sounds like the same kind of stupid shit that WWE was doing, hiring writers that have never watched a damn match.
you would think.
Yeah,
I know that scandal with that latest lady. I was just like,
yeah,
well, like it makes perfect sense that they would hire somebody like this. They love to get fucked by that, corporate press release. Like,
yeah.
look at what they want to be, something that they're not. It's like what Cornette tries to say all the time. And I don't agree with Cornette with 100% everything.
Right, right.
But like when he's like, there's 4 ring posts and there's a ring in the middle. It's called wrestling.
Right.
It's in the name of your guys' fucking
Exactly.
title. But you don't want to acknowledge it's got to be sports entertainment. It's like, who buys the ticket for sports entertainment? I've never heard anybody. I got to go down to my arena this Friday.
People that want something to complain about.
Oh,
those are the people that buy stuff for sports entertainment. Your outraged media outlets, your outraged social media posters and influencers. Those are the people that are going to nitpick all the aspects until they can find a reason to be a victim or get paid or get attention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the 99.9% of the rest of us who just want to see a good match or a good storyline or a good comic book movie or a good comic book TV show, we're the ones at the end of the day that should be the real influencers, not these 0.1 percenters.
I know. It just strikes me crazy that corporations, I don't know. I'm not in a corporate meeting board. I just don't understand the logic.
Oh, I don't either. I couldn't. I mean, it's like people would say that would probably be a dream job. I bet you if you asked most of your viewers and stuff like that, like, oh, if you could ever run Warner Brothers for a week, would you? Would you take the mantle? I would be like, fuck no, I don't want that headache.
There's so much egos to deal with.
Oh yeah.
No.
Right.
No,
but I mean, you ask younger people, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's the coolest job in the world. It's like, it's probably the worst nightmare you could ever think of. And it probably dehumanizes you on a daily basis, So.
No, I agree. And before we go, I wanted to say the whole reason this whole thing happened was because I believe it was either on the Monday night show with you and DT, or it was on the Tuesday show.
Yeah.
Somebody asked you if you were going to watch Suicide Squad, and I heard you like sighing, I don't know.
Right.
And I was like, hell no, he's not. He's going to watch that movie one way or another.
Yeah. Somebody also asked me if I was going to do a comic book show. And I'm like, no, man, because I can't read the new stuff, man. It hurts my feelings. I know that's the stupidest thing to say, but some of the direction of the actual brand new comics for Marvel and stuff like that, the political undertones in it.
They really chase that hard. Like
it hurts my feelings.
Like desperate hard.
Right. So it's like, you want me to do a show on new comic books? No, I can't do it, man. I'm too old.
There's some great independent books. Image is kicking butt again.
See, yeah, I follow. Obviously, I still read the Transformers comic books by oh my god,
IDW.
Yes, IDW. And I've read the Street Fighter parts and stuff like that. It's like they've done a good job. IDW is fun, And there are some other independent weird, like there's a Canadian French comic that I was reading for a little while. that disappeared and comes back, and it's a post-apocalyptic war story about a man and his robot dog, basically surviving in the middle of it. Yeah, it's really fucking low. So I've been finding myself checking out these very independent people that are probably printing it out themselves, which is a lot of fun to read too. But yeah, as far as the Marvels and the DCs, Image, I haven't really checked out too much of the new stuff. I probably need to.
You need to get on that Spawn universe and
I know I do,
because those are new books. Like now's the perfect time to dive in and either pick them up or just read them,
right?
Because you don't have to worry about because Spawn goes all over the place.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'm looking forward to it. But like for the most part, I've really been finding myself going back and reading older titles that I missed the first time around from the 80s, from the 90s and stuff like that. Not just the Captain America and Punishers, X-Men, but deep diving into other books too, so. But yeah, thank you for having me on, man.
No, thank you for coming on. Now, folks, if you want to follow up on wrestling and have a good time doing it, you want a no filter, honest opinion, honest, good fun. I can tell you from personal experience, I am a Patreon of these guys because they do that good of a job. Like they're that good, both him and Joe Numbers. Where can they find you guys to enjoy your content?
You literally could just Google Wrestling Soup and we will come up. We've been doing the show for going on 12 years now. And obviously I've been working with other shows even since back as early as 2006. WrestlingSoup.com is our website. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Wrestling Soup. And as far as actually listening to the podcast, we have our own Discord. You can find the actual Discord links on our Twitter and our Facebook. But the actual shows go every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every week. Sundays after pay-per-views is when we also go. And look on any platform. We're on Spotify. We're an iHeartRadio partner, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, like Google, everything. I don't think there's a place you can't find us at this point. So,
and if you can't find them anywhere, that means it's not legitimate.
Yeah. Then you might want to question where you're downloading your podcast from. Yes. But yes, thank you very much for having me on, dude. I really appreciate this. This was fun. If there's ever another Suicide Squad, you got to have me on again.
Yeah, it's a deal. I promise you, we'll make that a deal.
Very cool.
All right, folks. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next time. Take care.